بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. البس نظاره بس عشان اعرف اشوفك كمان. مش عارف انت قاعد في اول صف كده. Okay, our next speaker will be my lifetime mate. We have been together for so many years. I am graduated 1990. Shihab is graduated 1994. So we have 4 years difference, but I believe Shihab is one of the most eminent, not only speakers in Egypt, but one of the most knowledgeable and also one of the most active researchers here. He has a lot of publications in several international endodontic journals. One of the modest persons I have ever knew. I love him. And I believe that he loves me too. And I'd like to introduce him for the next lecture, which is going to be about bioceramics and endodontics, what is true and what is new.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, and I am really grateful for being with you here today. I'm going to talk on a separate issue. Aside from the methods or the surgery, I'm going to talk about the bioceramics and their updated clinical applications in the endodontic field. The first part of my lecture will be directed to highlight some important terminology, then I will go to the clinical applications. First, what comes into our mind when we see this word, bioceramics? Bio, something like biocompatible. Yes, a material that will be in contact with the living tissues and it will not induce any form of inflammation or an immunologic reaction. Also, it can refer to something else, which is bioactivity. Bioactivity is different from the biocompatibility. The bioactivity is that the material, it will not only be tissue friendly, no, it will promote or stimulate the surrounding tissues and will set up the stage for healing and formation of new tissues by repair or regeneration. Regarding the ceramics, they are collectively a group of materials. It can be carbide and oxide, usually non-metallic, and they have some properties in common, like being light in weight, withstand compression, weak in tension, difficult to manufacture, sometimes expensive. Our materials, the bioceramic materials we are using in endodontics, they are either or they belong to the hydraulic calcium silicate based materials. The word hydraulic means that I am going to mix my powder most of the times with water. Then it will set into a hard material that will be leak proof. So it can be used for managing repairs or perforations. We have either been using modifications of the Portland cement, and recently we are using pure tricalcium silicate materials, and they come to us in a variety of presentations. It's like a powder or a putty or a paste, and recently the sealers. The first reported use of Portland cement in endodontics in the end of the 19th century, this study which filled the entire root canal with the Portland cement. So what does the Portland cement consist of? And I will refer to it throughout the lecture as an OPC, which is the ordinary Portland cement. The basic composition, tricalcium silicate, abbreviated by alite, dicalcium silicate, dilite, in addition to some agents like the fluxing agent and gypsum to control the setting time, and unfortunately there are some trace elements. So what is the relation between the OPC and the MTA? The MTA was developed by Mahmoud Turabanjad, Loma Linda, California, in 1993 when he got the patent for a purified form of OPC. The first product on the market, 1998, by Dentsply, which was the ProRoot. The ProRoot is a powder versus liquid, ideally mixed in the ratio of 1, 2, 3. The next year, 1999, he presented a study listing the clinical indications for the bioceramics in a variety of endodontic applications like the vital pulp therapy used for apical plugs, furcation repair or root repair material, for management of internal external resorption, as well as retrofilling. Today, if you buy the Pro Root, you will see this written on the box that it is trusted in over 4 million canals. Yes, this is true, and this is the benchmark for most of the studies. So, what are the differences between the OPC and the MTA, and can we use the OPC instead of the MTA? The basic difference is the presence of a radiopacifier in the MTA, which is the bismuth oxide. As you can see, this is the difference between the hydrated and the unhydrated composition, and it is mixed in the ratio of 4:1. So, can the OPC replace the MTA? The answer is a big no, because although they have similar or comparable physical and biological properties, yet the OPC is very difficult to control, the quality control during manufacture, and there are inclusion of a lot of trace elements. So how does the MTA works? If we go through the setting reaction, it is divided into 2 stages. The first one is the hydration reaction, in which we mix the alite and the belite, the tri and the dicalcium silicate, with water. What's formed is something called calcium silicate hydrate, hydrogel, plus calcium hydroxide. The calcium hydroxide is responsible for 2 things. The calcium ions are important for the triggering and the proliferation and the attachment of the mesenchymal local stem cells, and the hydroxyl ions, they set an alkaline environment important for the repair and the healing to occur. Plus, when they come in contact with a tissue phosphates, they form a carbonated apatite or hydroxyapatite, which is the basic constituent of dental structures. So they provide a fluid tight seal as well as a bacterial tight seal. This is the second stage of the setting reaction, in which the calcium hydroxide, when it comes with contact with the tissue phosphates and forms the carbonated apatite or the hydroxyapatite. So, does the MTA bio? Yes, it is biocompatible and it is bioactive. This is a systematic review, and this is this is the highest level of evidence in the literature, a systematic review of about 24 studies, and it all described the formation of new cementum on top of the surface of the MTA. So, is MTA a magic material? Actually, no. Talking about the first formulation, the setting time was very prolonged, almost 3 hours, and this is too much. Second, there are inclusion of some trace elements like the chromium and the arsenic and the lead. Some of them are carcinogenic. Okay? Studies have shown that although they are present in the matrix, they don't leach out. Still, having formulations without such elements would be better. The third disadvantage of the Pro Root, the gray MTA, was the discoloration potential. And this was perceptible to the human eye after 1 month of application, especially if the material or traces of the material are kept in the pulp chamber. So how did the manufacturers contribute, or what did they manipulate or change in order to improve the properties of the MTA? First was to modify the MTA formulations. Starting by Dentsply, the Pro Root, it produced the white MTA. The difference between the white and the gray MTA is that there are lesser amount of iron and magnesium in the white MTA compared to the gray MTA. However, still discoloration occurred. And this occurs with our cases. Cases we did using white MTA and still we had discoloration, only it came after 3 months to be perceptible to the human eye versus 1 month with the gray MTA. Second, was an attempt to decrease the setting time. The initial setting time was about 3 hours. So this is the product by Angelus, the MTA Angelus, when they removed the gypsum completely and reduced the percentage of business. So the setting time reduced from about 3 hours till to be about 15 minutes. But the effect of reducing the business made it less radio opaque. Of course, there are lots of products, but I am only mentioning the ones that are in the Egyptian market. In order to improve the handling, because the handling was not very easy, the application of the MTA, Micromega introduced the mechanically mixed MTA to be used like the glass ionomer capsule. And another attempt to reduce the particle size so that we can have very fine particles, so it can be used as a sealer, root canal sealer. And recently, new MTA produced size particles in the nano range in order to improve the physical properties. Also, it has an anti-washout additive. To decrease the setting time, we have the ortho and the retro MTA by, I think, Marucci. The setting time is reduced till 1.5 and 2.5 minutes. The second approach was to replace an OPC and either with the pure tricalcium silicate. We have the product Biodentine by Septodont. It is marketed as a dentine substitute. It comes in the form of a capsule with special polymer. You open the capsule, then you put 5 drops of the liquid in the capsule, then you close it. Then you take it to the amalgamator, mechanical mixing. Mixing time is about 30 seconds. After this, you get a coherent plastic mass that you can use for a variety of clinical applications. The Biodentine, it's marketed as a dentine substitute, so you can fill the canal up to the level of the dentino-enamel junction with the Biodentine. You can apply it according to the use, either with an amalgam carrier or with an MTA carrier. Okay, the other modification is to use calcium phosphate silicate cements. It started with the bioaggregate and ended with the endosequence. The endosequence is marketed in several countries under several names. In the United States, it is endosequence. In Canada, it is iRoot. And in Europe, it is total fill by FKG. It is present in different presentations. We have a putty, and we have a single paste system. Also, we have Gataperca coated or impregnated with the bioceramic particles to be used with the bioceramic sealer. So what are the clinical applications of the bioceramics? We have a lot of clinical applications, but due to limited time of this lecture, I will only talk about like 4 or 5 applications only. I will start with the regenerative endodontics. This case, this boy had a calcium hydroxide epixification. Okay, that resulted in formation of a calcific apical barrier. But the walls of the canal are still thin. His mother was one of my students, so I talked with her. We will try to make some attempt for regenerative endodontics. We might gain an increase in the length of the root. So it started by removal of the calcium hydroxide. The root canal is flushed with sterile saline solution. Then I am going to use the XP finisher for mechanical agitation of the calcium hydroxide paste. As you know, the XP finisher, it is an asymmetric file that makes asymmetric oscillations inside the root canal, operated at about 800 RPM, and it is very efficient for cleaning after you finish cleaning and shaping, and very efficient for removal of calcium hydroxide, and also for removal of gutta-perca if you are making a retreatment. This is the second stage or the second visit of the regeneration. After we ensure complete removal of the calcium hydroxide, we dry our canal and irrigate it with edita in order to expose the leukine matrix proteins. This is followed by induction of bleeding inside the root canal by introducing a file, a large file, past the apex to violate the apex. Then we wait for some time until blood goes inside and blood starts to clot inside the root canal. Next is the creation of the apical plug. But before application of the apical plug, this is a large canal. So if we introduced the bioceramic plug, it might go and fall into the canal. So it is better to use a matrix. This matrix is usually a resorbable collagen matrix. So it is carefully introduced above the level of the cemento enamel junction. The bioceramic is applied using an MTA carrier. My favorite MTA carrier is the MAP system. And MAP stands for MTA apical placement. It comes in a variety of tip material and tip designs, different diameters. Okay, then I put flowable composite before referring the case to the restorative dentist. And this should be followed up radiographically to monitor the maturation of the tooth. This case, I had a successful regenerative approach, but the patient came with discoloration in his front teeth. As you can see, there are remnants of the material in the pulp chamber, and this is a mistake. This was one of my early cases, and I had the mishap of coronal discoloration. Another case, follow up 3 years and 6 months and 3 years as well. This approach is predictable and it is successful, but you have to go by the guidelines. Another application or another use of bioceramics is to make the apical plugs. Not only if you have an open apex due to an immature tooth or a necrotic pulp, sometimes you have resorption and sometimes you have over-instrumentation. A variety of reasons can contribute to can contribute to having this open apex. Before making the apical plug, you have to adjust the length of your carrier for accurate placement of the material. And in case of large perforations or large apices, it is better to use a resorbable matrix as well. This was done by using gray MTA. Gray MTA, as I told you, setting time about 3 hours. And it is important to see if there are excess moisture in the mix. You can get this moisture out by using paper points, large paper points. The plug length, it should range from 3 to 5 millimeters according to the length of the root. And we used to put a hydrated cotton pellet, and we should make an X-ray to verify that there are no voids and we have proper extension of the material. The apical plug, I can use it in a variety of applications. Like this case, this was referred for non-surgical retreatment. As you can see, there are well-defined reducencies, hazy reducencies around the root. So the bone resorption is expected that I have cementum resorption as well. So I tried, or I thought that it was better to make MTA apical plugs. And as you can see here, there is slight overextension that was remodeled after 1 year. What happened? What happens is that the macrophages make some sort of phagocytosis for the extruded material, and this is the 2 years follow-up. Another C-shaped lower molar that was referred for retreatment. When you get a tooth like this, it's better to order or to request a CBCT. The mesial canals are actually calcified. There is a coronal ledge almost making a perforation, but the distal root, what we have is a large radiolucency, and we have a blunderbuss apex. But this is an indication for the apical plug, and this was done using a matrix, and actually the entire root was filled with the MTA. Another trauma case, patient with trauma in the apical 1/3, you know that this has the best prognosis. You can leave it and you can follow it up. After 2 weeks, the patient came and the X-ray changes. There are some changes. I requested a CBCT. So there was an actual displacement between the segments, and the patient was scheduled for surgery. But before surgery, we did the MTA plug so that at the time of the surgery, we did not have to make a retro preparation and a retrofilling. We did the MTA plug followed by filling the coronal part of the root canal by thermoplasticized gataperca. Then we open surgically and remove the fractured segment, and that's it. Another use for bioceramics to repair external resorption. Okay, this was a dental student, graduate. He had pain with the thermal changes in lower 6, restored with amalgam. When he did the X-ray, we found that there is an external root resorption. This was the very hyperemic pulp, and this was an lingual external cervical root resorption. Before making the root canal treatment, it was important to seal the resorption. Here I used a gelatin sponge, and the gelatin sponge, it is hemostatic. I used it as a matrix to seal the perforation site temporarily until cleaning and shaping and location of the root canals was done. It was easy to locate the mesiobuccal and the distal canals, but the mesolingual canals was near to the perforation. After shaping the canals, they were protected by Teflon before applying of the repair material. For this repair, I used biodentine. Biodentine gives me the advantage that the capsule actually gives you a lot of material. So it is very sufficient for this purpose. Another thing is the setting time. The setting time, the initial setting time of the biodentine ranges from 6 to 8 minutes. It is applied with an amalgam carrier because this is relatively a more coronal location. This is pure tricalcium silicate, expected to be biocompatible as well as bioactive. The next visit, we removed the Teflon and inspected that the canals are patent. It is very important to protect your canals because if the ceramic material goes inside, it will be difficult to remove them. After 1 week, the setting of the materials was inspected, and this is important before proceeding to the next step. And this is the post-operative radiograph. The last clinical application I'm going to talk about is the use of the bioceramic sealers. The bioceramic sealers, they are a single paste system that depends on the moisture content of the dentine for setting. You know that dentine contains about 25 to 30% water content. The technique used is called the hydraulic condensation technique, in which you inject the paste into the root canal, followed by insertion of your master cone. These sealers have a tendency for extrusion. Then you severe your master cones at the level of the orifices and you pack them with a plugger. Okay. What do you think of this obturation? Do you like it? Do you like the sealer puff? Are you happy with the extrusion? They call it the endodontic pride. Actually, I am against this technique. I have a lot of reservations on the use of single cones for bioceramic sealers. And this will be the core of my lecture in December, inshallah, in the Pan Endo conference. So, see you there. Thank you. No questions?
Thank you, Dr. Shihab. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shihab, for the nice presentation.